Hey everyone, today we're going to gently pull back the curtain on something that's at the heart of how the web works, how a web page actually talks to a database. We'll be looking at it through the lens of Java Server Pages, or JSP, and a really neat tool called JDBC. Now, I know that might sound a little intimidating, but trust me, we're going to break it all down into a super simple, easy-to-follow story. I mean, have you ever stopped to think about that? You're browsing online, and it's like websites have a memory, right? They remember who you are, what you like, what you left in your cart last week. It's not magic, not at all. It's actually a very elegant and essential connection that's happening just behind what you see on the screen. And that memory, well, that's a database. You can think of it as the organized brain of a website. It's where all the important stuff is stored that makes your experience feel personal and dynamic. So understanding how to connect to one isn't just some random skill. It's absolutely fundamental if you want to build modern web applications. And it's not an exaggeration to say this is everywhere. I mean, just look at this quote. From the biggest online stores and social media giants to the simplest blogs, databases are the invisible backbone holding it all together. Learning how to make this connection is really like learning the fundamental language of the interactive web. All right, so to make this whole thing feel a lot less technical and a lot more intuitive, let's frame it as a simple story. Imagine we have three main characters: a curious researcher, a huge and very secure archive, and a universal translator. So first up is the database. In our story, this is that massive, perfectly organized archive. It holds every piece of important data you can think of: user profiles, product info, personal messages, you name it. It's safe, it's structured, and it's the ultimate source of truth for our website. Next, we've got our JSP page. In our little story, this is the curious researcher. This web page, it needs to ask the archive for specific things, right? Like, hey, can you find the profile for this user? Or maybe it needs to add something new, like, please store this comment someone just posted. But here's the catch. Our researcher, the JSP page, and the archive, the database, they don't speak the same language. And that's where our third, and maybe most important character comes in, JDBC. That stands for Java Database Connectivity, and JDBC is our universal translator. It's the critical go-between that lets them have a perfectly clear conversation. And check this out. This diagram shows exactly how our story maps to the real world of web architecture. Let's take a look. Over on the left, we've got the client tier. That's our researcher, the JSP page that you see in your browser. Way over on the right, you have the EIS tier, which is where our database, our archive, lives. And look right there in the middle. That's where JDBC sits, acting as that essential translator that connects the two worlds. So how does our researcher actually get that information? Well, it's not a free-for-all. You can't just walk in and start grabbing things. There's a formal process, kind of like an official request protocol, that makes sure everything is done in a secure and orderly way. Let's walk through that protocol right now. This whole process really boils down to 4 clear steps. First, you've got to hire the right translator for the specific archive you're visiting. Then, you need to get official permission to even go inside. After that, you write down your very specific question on a standard form. And finally, you get back the findings all neatly organized for you. Okay, step 1, hire the right translator. In the tech world, this is what we call loading the JDBC driver. It makes sense, right? If the archive is in Germany, you need a German translator. If your database is MySQL, you need the specific MySQL translator or driver. So the very first thing we do is tell our application, hey, this is the exact translator we're going to be using for this job. Okay, we've got our translator. Now we need permission to actually enter the archive. Technically, this is called establishing a connection. It's where we show our credentials, the database address, a username, and a password. If everything checks out, the system hands us back a special connection object. You can think of this as our official key card, giving us secure access for the rest of our mission. So we're inside the archive, we've got our key card. Now it's time to actually ask our question. We do this by creating what's called a statement object. This is like being given the official standardized request form. And on this form, we write our query in a language the archive understands, which is pretty much always SQL. Something like, select all products from the shoes table. And finally, the moment we've been waiting for. After we submit our official request, we get a response. This comes back to us in the form of a results set object. The best way to picture this is as a neatly organized folder, full of all the data that perfectly matched what you asked for. Our web page can then just flip through this folder, one piece of information at a time, and display it. Now, this diagram basically shows us the official toolkit that JDBC gives us to work with. Let's just trace our steps again. We start with the driver manager, which helps us hire our specific driver. That gets us our connection, our key card. We use that key card to create a statement, our official form, and when we send that off, we get back a result set, that folder with all our findings. The real beauty of this is that JDBC makes the process the same every time, giving us this consistent set of tools no matter what kind of database we're talking to. So if there's one thing you take away from all of this, it shouldn't be these specific lines of code. It should be the roles that each of these pieces play. Seriously, understanding the story of what's happening is so much more powerful than just memorizing a bunch of rules. It really does all come down to this simple idea. You have the researcher, your web page, that needs to know something. You have the archive, the database that holds all the knowledge, and you have the translator, JDBC, right in the middle, making that whole conversation possible. This simple cycle is the engine that powers almost every website you use every single day. And once you see it this way, as this simple story, it starts to feel a lot less like intimidating code and more like a really logical and kind of beautiful system of communication. The foundation of the entire interactive web is built on this very idea. So now that you understand how these pieces fit together, the only real question left is, what will you build?